Whenever there's a tragedy, inevitably someone will ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Now, I want to come back to that question, but I want to go and look at something that might help make sense of when these things happen. Throughout history, we haven't always had the tools necessary to see the things that are in the world around us. In fact, there have been things that have existed for as long as humans have existed and way before we existed that we only recently have had the tools to even recognize or measure. Here's an example. Ultraviolet rays, UV rays. They've existed for as long as the sun has existed, but about 200 years ago, we had the tools to finally understand what they were and what their purpose is. X-rays, they're used hundreds of times daily, and they were only discovered 100 years ago. So that literally means that there have been things floating around, invisible to the naked eye, that we haven't had the tools to see, that have existed for as long as we have existed. It just took us a long time to figure out how to see these things. It's not that they didn't exist. It's not that we didn't have an idea of what they could potentially be. We just didn't have the tools necessary to understand and to show everyone else what these things are. So the whole purpose of inventing these tools to see these things that have existed that we've never seen before is to better understand the world around us. But we've always had a struggle understanding when something like a mass shooting or a hurricane or an earthquake, what purpose that could possibly serve, and ultimately why those things are happening to people that don't seemingly deserve them. But then I see things like all these donation boxes and all of these websites that are asking for donations and all of these charities that are pulling together, all these people that got in trucks and filled their vehicles with supplies and drove down to Texas and Florida, and it brought so many people together in a time where it seemingly is a very divisive environment to where everyone has an opinion and those opinions conflict. Maybe we don't fully have the tools to understand what purpose a tragedy could serve, but maybe eventually we can help each other understand or develop tools to make us see that they do serve a purpose. Maybe tragedy is just a means of comparison for when times are good. Maybe tragedy is just a perspective realignment, a natural way of saying that without this, you can't have this. You can't have sunshine without rain. You can't have darkness without light. There is no basis for comparison without its opposite. And maybe when we ask that question of why do bad things happen to good people, maybe we're not asking the right question. I think it'd be pretty safe to say that no one deserves a hurricane ripping through their town and destroying all of their families' homes and killing people. And that an earthquake is pretty devastating to an economy that's already wrecked. Maybe we shouldn't be asking why bad things happen to good people. We should just simply be asking, why do bad things happen? And I think if you've been paying attention for the last few weeks, that bad things happen to give us perspective and potentially bring people together who wouldn't otherwise agree. And maybe we don't fully have the tools to understand why terrible things happen and what purpose they could possibly serve in the greater scheme of things and even in our personal lives. But maybe there's a chance that we'll get there one day, that we'll have the tools to understand why bad things happen.